At ease. It's your boy Soul Immortal. Me and I'm just sitting here enjoying a little quiet time at home for a change and decided to do a little reading. And today my book of choice was the Bible. Now I rarely veer away from the book of Proverbs, but for some reason today I dove into the book of Exodus. Now we all know that the book of Exodus deals with Moses freeing the Israelite slaves, right? Now, as a son of a preacher growing up, I've heard this story a million times, but for some reason, there was something that stood out about it today. Now, we're all familiar with, Moses was the chosen one and all the hardships he went through. We're familiar with the several plagues that came up on the land of Egypt. And we also know that at some point in time, the people were let go. But that's where it gets interesting to me. Because see, you can imagine that once the slaves were free, everybody was excited. You can imagine them walking away from the land of Egypt, high-fiving, singing, dancing, just crunk, right? But for some reason, Pharaoh decided to send his troops to recapture them. And that's where it gets interesting. Because as soon as the freed people see the troops coming over the hills, they begin to show their true colors. They see the troops coming and they look at Moses and all of a sudden they're like, dude, what were you thinking about? They say, we're out in the middle of nowhere. We don't have any food. We don't have any water. You set us up for failure. We're all getting ready to die. And they said, at least when we were back there, even though we was crappy, we had food, we had water, we had a roof over our head, but now we have nothing. And the men said, you know what? You should have just left us alone. Comfort over freedom. I read that, and for some reason, I thought about the people of today, us, right? Because if you approach the average person and you're talking about investments, if you're talking about making any kind of real estate moves, if you're talking about, opening up a business, the reply you get is, like life is good. Like we have our 401ks, we have our pensions, we have our 10 days vacation. Like what are you thinking about? Just leave us alone, man. Even though we complain about going to work every Monday, even though we get on the Instagram and Facebook and complain about our jobs, leave us alone. We good. Comfort over freedom. So I thought about it, and I said, it all boils down to this. When people talk about why they're not financially free, they always want to point the finger. They always want to say, oh, well, I just don't make enough money. My company, the company that I work for, they're just greedy. It's the government, taxes. People have 1,000,000,001 reasons on why they're not financially free. But I've came to the conclusion that it's not the money, it's the mindset. Let's talk about it. Now, I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with the late, great motivational speaker, Jim Rohn, but he had this snippet from one of his most popular speeches. It's like a 3-minute snippet that's all over the internet. And it's called Walk Away from the 97%. Now, during this video, he talks about how the majority of people are just following suit from everybody else they see. And he said the first thing you have to do if you want to be different financially is first see what everybody else is doing and do the opposite. He said don't walk like they walk, don't talk like they talk, don't act like they act, don't go the places they go. You have to first be different. He said that there's only 5% of the population that's able to retire on their own personal resources. In other words, the other 95% are relying on some government agency or some retirement, some other form of income that they've established for themselves. And guys, that's scary. That's dangerous. He said that if a person takes their finances and their retirement into their own hands, they can easily multiply it by 5. But if a person relies on the government or their job to make them rich, he said they're gonna have to divide by 5. It's a very good video, guys. I'll try to leave a link so you can watch that. But it says a whole lot about the mindsets of people. In one of DJ Khaled's songs, Jay-Z started out by saying, "Brothers always asking me for the key. Until you own your own, you can't be free. Until you own your own, you can't be me. How we still slaves in 2016. And he was spitting straight facts the whole song. Because the average person today has a slave mentality. And when I say slave mentality, I mean people are fully relying on their jobs to take care of them. And God, that is a scary position to be in. Financial freedom is something that people just don't even obtain anymore. I remember several years ago, I think I was living in Georgia, and I was visiting home back in Longview, Texas, and I walked into a Popeyes chicken. I mean, there were about 4, maybe 5 guys in there working, young guys. I want to say the guy that was managing was maybe 25 years old. And I walked in, man, and that place was running like clockwork. I mean, the guy was back there, man, dust flying, cooking the chicken. The guy was moving through the drive-through quick. I mean, it was just a well-oiled machine. And I looked at the 2 front guys at the counter. I said, man, you guys should all go in together and open up your own store. And man, it was like they all just stopped and looked at me like what are you talking about? Like what? And I was shocked. And then they kept on working. I was just like wow, like it's not even in people's mind nowadays that they can do their own thing. And that's not good, guys. It's a mindset. Keeping up with the Joneses. In my opinion, keeping up with the Joneses is one of the, it's pure poison to anybody's portfolio when it comes to financial freedom. So who are the Joneses, we ask, right? The Joneses is gonna be, 90% of people you see on, Facebook and Instagram. The Joneses are the guys that drive $80,000 cars and can't even afford to put gas in it. The Joneses are the women that tote Birkin bags and don't have 1 red cent in it. The Joneses are anybody or any group of people that are living above their means to impress, and you're trying to keep up with them. Those are the Joneses. Now, this is what I learned from trying to keep up with the Joneses. 1, I learned that you can never keep up. In other words, once you see the neighbor down the street get the 3 Series Beamer and you go get the 5 Series, it's just a matter of time before somebody gets the 7. And now you have to try to outdo that. Now you have to try to keep up with what they're doing. So that's one thing I learned. 2, I learned that it serves absolutely no purpose. Because the people that you're trying to impress by going out and buying these big cars or big purses or big chains or whatever, in all actuality, they don't give a damn. They could care less what you have, Once I realized this, once I realized that, keeping up with the Joneses was pure stupidity, I easily shaved 15 to 17 years off of my retirement. And when I say retirement, let me explain what I mean. When I say retirement, I don't mean just getting to a point where I can sit up at home. I mean get to a point where if I feel free to, I can walk away from an employer and live off my own resources. Because once I realized that I didn't need to try to keep up with a certain lifestyle to impress somebody else, I somewhat became a minimalist. And I saw that to be completely happy, to be content, that it took very little for me to be good to go. You know, and at that point I realized that, hey, you know what? When people think they need to have all this money, it really doesn't take a lot of money to be happy. And once I put things in place to bring me income, I said, you know what? It makes no sense for me to try to keep up with a group of people and force myself to work to 65, 75 years old. When I can just change my mentality, and if I want to shut down at 45, I have that option. There's this video by J.Cole, and it's not a music video. It's pretty much just like a quick spiel on him just spitting some knowledge. And I saw this video some years ago, and man, it had an impact on me. It had an impact on my mindset. And I posted this video on my Patreon. And there was a brother, I can't remember his name, but he said, you know what, I can identify. He said, you know, a couple of years ago or recently, I had, the big Lexus. And once I snapped out of it, man, I got rid of that car and just went and bought me like a small sedan, a Camry, a Corolla, or something, some smaller car he mentioned. And I'm like, you know what? That brother has it figured out. Because I'm telling you, once you realize that keeping up with anybody is stupid, once you get your mindset on what you need to survive, and once you set your budget, and once you get your income right, guys, I'm telling you, we're killing ourselves on this planet. So, keeping up with the Joneses, you have to know that this is one thing that is going to kill your financial freedom. Now, when it comes to financial freedom, knowledge of self is by far, in my opinion, one of the most critical elements, right? Because it amazes me on how many people go to church on Sundays. It amazes me how many people go to Mass, how many people go to Jumu'ah to seek spiritual knowledge, but they fail to tap into the truest source of knowledge, which is within. In my opinion, in order to become free, financially free, you must know how to tap into the source of all things. You know, just like a bird has the ability to fly, just like a spider has the ability to cast a web, you have to understand that human beings have been given a power also. Now, I've talked about this in the recipe, the video I made called The Recipe. And I kind of go in depth on it. Now I have 4 additional videos attached to that one that are on Patreon. So I'm not really going to dive into that. But it's crucial that a person is aware of how powerful their thoughts are. It's crucial that a person understand the power of visualization and meditation. It's crucial that a person know that they have full responsibility and that they are fully capable of creating the life that they want. Now, I'm not going to get too deep into this because we're going to dive into that heavy going forward. We're going to get into that later on this week. I have a special guest that's going to join me. We're going to start going live at the end of this week. It'll be the first time us doing some live streaming. But I have a special guest coming, and we're gonna dive into that whole, creation and manifestation thing. Because the thing is this, I've been reading on this for years, but there are very few people that I can talk to that about. Because if I bring it up, people are just kind of like, oh, wait. So that's something that I, for the most part, I keep to myself. But that's a crucial element to being successful in life. So I definitely want to bring that to the table. And again, this guest is going to be great to bring all that out. In a nutshell, when it comes down to spirituality and financial freedom, or spirituality in anything for that reason, you really have to make sure you have the right perspective on it, right? Because you really have to analyze what the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was saying. You really have to analyze what Jesus, peace be upon him, was telling us. You have to understand what the Quran, the Bible, and several other books of that nature are really saying. But it takes the right perspective. And once you find the right perspective, I'm telling you, it's one of the hardest pills to swallow. Because ultimately what it's saying is we need to stop thinking of a God and start thinking as a God. All right, guys, I almost forgot a few things. A couple of you guys have been hitting me up, man, when I make certain videos, telling me that, hey, I left your city, man, we should hang out. Then yesterday, a brother hit me up and said, man, you need to give a brother heads up when you come to the city. I know last week, or a few days ago, I was in Amarillo, and a brother hit me up. A few weeks ago, I was down in South Florida, and a couple of cats hit me up, but it was kind of after the fact, so I was already gone. So, man, I would love to hang out with you guys, man. Let's pop a cold drink. I ain't really on the alcohol thing no more, but hell, we can drink some coffee, man, and just chop it up, man, and swap some knowledge, swap some ideas. So tomorrow, anybody in Atlanta, man, I'll be downtown Atlanta. If anybody want to hang out, I'll be there for a couple of hours downtown, and then I'll be in Savannah and Hilton Head for the rest of the week. It's some resort out there I'm gonna try, man. So anybody in Hilton Head, Savannah, that's my old stomping ground, man. Let's hang out, let's chop it up, man. Let's just, we brothers, you know what I'm saying? A brother hit me up on my last video. I can't think of your name, brother, but out in Dubai. I'll be out in Dubai like another 2 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks. So hit me up, man. Email me at soulimmortal@immortalminds.com. Shoot me your information, man, and when I get out there, before I head that way, I hit you up. So anybody out in Dubai, man, let's hang out, let's chop it up. We need to get on some jet skis or some quads when I get out there, man. That's something I didn't do when I was out there earlier this year. And the week after that, I'll be hiking in South Africa. I'll be hiking, I think it's called Table Mountain. It's one of those mountains out there in Cape Town. So the following week, I'll be in Cape Town. Anybody out there in Cape Town, man, let's hang out. Let's have a good time, man. I want to see what the nightlife in South Africa is like. So let's just kick it, man, if you're out there. And then I may or may not do Phoenix at the end of November. But yeah, man, y'all guys hit me up. soulimmortal@immortalminds.com. I'll give you my phone number, and we can hang out, man, and just kick it, man. Like I said, we brothers. One more thing I wanted to bring up is, I bring the Patreon channel up every once in a while. But something real big we're doing on Patreon right now. We started it about a week or two ago, and we're paper trading. And for you guys that don't know what paper trading is, it's using simulated money with real-time stock. You know what I mean? Which, in other words, we're investing money against the real stock market, but it's a simulation. And right now we're just a trial period. Everybody kind of just trying it out. Some guys that have never invested, we're just getting a feel of it. But on November 2nd, we're gonna start it over again, and we're gonna run it for 30 days. And that's when we're gonna kind of start, having a friendly competition with it. The top earners in that period, I'm gonna be giving, cash out to 300 to the top, 200 to the second, and 100 to the third place. And we're gonna do that through the end of the year at least. And we may just keep rolling it over into 2019. But ultimately, this is what I want to bring from this. I mean, I want us men to become more knowledgeable on the stock market, including myself, because I want us all to learn from each other. But what I want that to become in time is like a mastermind group. Once we all get good and we're all profitable while we're simulating, it should turn over to the real thing, man, where you have a bunch of knowledgeable, well-informed guys, on the stock market that are bouncing off each other and growing our generational wealth, becoming wealthy. So that's where I would like to see that go. But if you're new to investing, if you want to know more about it, again, right now is the perfect time to get in and learn, because we're all green at it. We're all trying to learn. You don't have any experts in there, but I believe it's going to turn out to be a good thing. So that's all I have. It's your boy Soul Immortal, and I'm out.